Hello everyone, I am James Sherwood with the Morningstar Packing Company. This month we are bringing you a special legislative edition of Tomato Bites. As a leader in the tomato processing industry, we make substantial investments in R&D and work diligently on food safety and food affordability. For decades, we've worked with the California League of Food Producers to educate federal and state legislators on all types of proposed legislation that impacts food safety and access to food and food affordability. Today I'm joined by Kaite Little and Trudi Hughes to discuss some of the proposed bills and regulations that may impact our industry, our customers, and consumers. Kaite, if you can please introduce yourself and let everyone know about some of the current proposed legislation that could impact our industry.
Thank you, James. Kaite Little with the California League of Food Producers. I'm the Government Affairs Director. Food issues are a very hot topic right now in the state capitol, as well as on federal Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Dealing with a lot of things regarding UPFs, ultra-processed foods, food packaging bans. The GRAS process was generally recognized as safe ingredients, and so we're tracking a lot of these issues through the legislative process here at the state.
Thank you, Kaite. The educational process that the CLFP has with legislators is tremendously important. Often legislators don't understand the impact of their bills, the science behind their bills, the operational impacts of their bills. So it's our obligation to educate them. And our partnership and interaction with CLFP and all of its members go toward that goal. So if you could please explain to everyone how the CLFP engages with the legislators to help them understand our issues and challenges and make sure that legislation is not impacting our industry negatively.
Yes, CLFP is able to engage at various levels of government and really speak on behalf of our membership. One of the things we do is we provide commentary and testimony in front of state and legislative committees. We also work through our various lobbyists on labor issues, environmental issues, packaging issues, as I mentioned before, all things that are brought before different various policy committees at the Capitol. And then we're also engaged in lobby days. We have a lobby day here in Sacramento for our members. They're able to come and meet with their local legislators, as well as different agency representation, staff. And then we have a federal lobby day as well, where they can go to Washington, D.C., again, talk to their representatives about different food issues that are affecting them. Lastly, I would say one of the things that we actually really engaged on is site visits. You can have legislators out to your site. They can see what your company does, how you obviously work. They love to meet the people that work at the sites and live in the communities. And so I think that's really impactful, and they can see what their constituents are doing to provide this safe, healthy, nutritious food.
Great points, Kaite. The engagement there again that you help all of our members make with the legislators is just tremendously important, and it really does change the perspective of the legislators. We also have with us today Trudi Hughes. Trudi is very, very involved from a regulatory standpoint and has been engaged for many, many years on legislative matters for CLFP and its members.
Well, thank you, James. I appreciate that. I've been involved with the California League of Food Producers for going on 16 years, and I was Director of Government Affairs before Kaite here, before I became the President and CEO. And I'll tell you, there's a lot going on, both legislatively and regulatorily. And I think what's important to note is that the regulations are stemmed often from the legislation that comes out of the legislature. And so we're dealing with what we dealt with in the Capitol. We move over to lobbying those same issues from a regulatory perspective. And so the regulations that we most often deal with and have the biggest impact on our members' operations are largely environmental, whether it's water quality, air quality, climate change. We work a lot with the California Environmental Protection Agency. When it comes to other issues of major importance, food safety, for example, labeling and nutrition, we work most often with the federal Food and Drug Administration. But we also work within California with the California Department of Public Health on those issues as well. Transportation is a huge issue. Logistics are a huge issue. Trade is a huge issue. Again, those are those span both state and federal. And then I think the highest priority for us right now, because we're really in the midst of some pretty thorny regulatory issues surrounding packaging. This is a huge issue for everything that you see in the grocery store when you walk through the door, but mainly for food. Food is going to be hit pretty hard with the packaging regulations. And so we're working very closely with the regulators to educate them about the impacts on food and how we can come to some solutions that will work for the industry to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a difficult position and not having packaging for the food that we produce here in California.
Great points, Trudi. We're very engaged with regard to packaging. I mean, we're working as an industry to make sure that we're reducing packaging, reusing packaging, and also recycling packaging. As an industry, the tomato industry is already reusing bins. All of our wooden bins, our metal bins, our plastic bins are reused sometimes for 20 or 30 years. With regard to our other packaging that makes our product secure and safe for our buyers and for consumers and gives it shelf life, we're working directly with some of our vendors so that we can reduce the plastic in that packaging, but still maintain the integrity and the strength of that packaging so that it's viable for our industry. We're also working very closely with technology companies on the ability to recycle packaging. So new technology that will give us the ability to recycle some of our packaging that currently is more challenging to recycle. Trudi, let's take a moment, if we could, and talk about natural gas and some of the regulatory proposals that potentially may impact our industry with regard to natural gas versus electricity and how we're managing that and how we're communicating back to the legislature.
Absolutely, and I think that's a very thorny issue. That's certainly one that Kaite and I spend a lot of time on, both in the legislature and with the California Energy Commission. It's a very difficult and issue to kind of put our arms around because there are so many different parts to it. But I think by and large, think we can kind of categorize it as decarbonization as the main drivers of the legislation and the regulations that we're beginning to see to reduce the amount of natural gas that's used in the state of California that will reduce emissions. That's a very difficult thing for tomato processors, particularly in the ones that use boilers and need them for steam and to run your operations. Electricity just doesn't seem to work. The boilers are way more expensive. They're not as effective. And so trying to communicate to legislators and to the regulators about the fact that electricity is just not possible. And there's a reliability issue here in California with regard to the grid. And so what happens when you're dealing with fresh product that's being processed and you have to shut down your plant because of lack of energy? And so you have to clean your whole plant out, as you know. It becomes very difficult. So Kaite and I spend a lot of time educating policymakers about these problems and about why the tomato processing industry is so unique, and ag in general. We have other members too that rely on natural gas, the dryers and dehydrators, for example. There are no alternatives. So if you say that you can't use natural gas, then it could put that whole industry out of business. And so looking for other options besides natural gas, hydrogen, for example, extremely expensive and extremely dangerous. There's not the infrastructure to support it. And so there's just a lot of complications where it's a good idea to just get out of natural gas, but it's not always feasible and it's not always possible.
And I would say an added layer is that a lot of our members, including mostly tomato processors, obviously are operating at high impact times of summer. And so the rates are higher for electricity. Obviously, you need to run 24/7. There's just more of a pull to the point on the grid, more pull of that energy. And so again, that's just another added hurdle of having to deal with the timing of year that you guys obviously need to pull the most energy.
Absolutely, great points, especially with regard to the tomato industry and running 24/7. When we're running, we're packing 24/7 and we have an aseptic pack to maintain. So if we break that aseptic pack and lose sterility, huge issue for the product. And there again, we have a short window to produce the product. We only have about 90 to 100 days during that fresh pack season during the summer between July and October. So That's tremendously important that we have the stability of power to be able to run our facilities. You know, some key takeaways from today's Tomato Bites and our discussion is that it's crucial for our industry to educate and interact with policymakers so that they understand the impact of the policy that they're making, and we can hopefully revise that policy to make sure it's not detrimental to our industries. You know, great comments today. Really appreciate both of you joining me today. We're really actually very, very excited too about the World Processing Tomato Congress coming to California. It's only about every 25 years that the Congress comes to California, and this year it's going to be in Monterey, California from June 7th and initially through June 10th. That's when the Congress will be in Monterey. And we're also going to have, at the end of the Congress, we're going to have 2 days at the end where we're going to go out to the field, seed operations, and we're going to tour some water facilities as well. So very, very exciting to be able to have the World Processing Tomato Congress in California. So I encourage everyone to join. And as always, if you have any questions with regard to any of the bills that we talked about today, what we're doing as a food industry to help all of our customers and consumers make sure that food is affordable and safe, please contact us. We're available. Trudi and Kaite are always available, and we'll answer all your questions. So we really appreciate it. Thanks for the conversation today, everyone. Cheers.